It's a girl. Here, in the peaceful stillness, you are forming my innermost being. As you shape my delicate inside and my intricate outside, I delight in how thoroughly you know me. There is no doubt that you have created me, skillfully and purposefully, from nothing to something. The way you cherish me as you carefully mold me has my heart locked into yours. It is only us. I know only us. In this creation garden, you tenderly whisper your plans and purposes to me. And my love grows as I understand that you held these plans long before you held me. I am confident in who you say I am, because your love communicates it so clearly. I am eager to walk with you because I know you will never leave my side. This love that has shaped me from the beginning is my story for all my life. You will never stop loving me. Your affections will always pursue me. You define my value. I know this because here, in the quiet darkness, where it's just you and I feel safe. I feel loved. I feel worthy. And you tell me that you never change, although I am changing every day. So it will always be us. You, the eternal, pursuing, loving me, God. And I am her.
I'm so thankful that you guys are here. Well, in case that you don't know me, my name is Vivi Rivers, and my husband and I have the privilege and the joy to lead this church, Destiny Church. We're just so glad that you're here. We are so glad that you're here. As a house, we've put together this conference, and we're just filled with expectation for what's going to happen tonight and tomorrow. It's just going to be good. I just know it, because you know what? It's not about me. And it's also not about any other girl here. It's about him, right? And so it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be so awesome. So, okay, our women's ministry here at Destiny is called Daughters. And I believe that I actually should have thought about history. When did we start Daughters? I don't even remember the year, but it's been several years. And Jesus brought us all together, a group of women from different ages and backgrounds from our church, and we all sat at a table and we asked ourselves, what is good for all of us? You know, because then if you approach one girl, then she'll tell you all the ways that she likes this and she doesn't like this. And then if you're sitting right next to her, you're like, oh, well, I mean, that's her, but I like this, and I don't like that. And it's okay, right? It's cool. This is what makes us awesome, right? That we are all different and that we like different things. And that we can be there for one another. So we thought, let's just focus on the one thing that we all have together, that we don't get to choose. What is that? We're women. We're daughters, right? It's the one thing that we have in common. It's the one thing that he picked for us. He picked for us. Wasn't that opening just awesome? I have to tell you that our friend Maddie is such a gift to the body of Christ. She is. She really is. She wrote that spoken word when thinking of Psalm 139, and she wrote it from her baby girl. She really is expecting a baby girl. And what would our thoughts, our life be like? What would it be like if we could live our life with Jesus, this life, right? From that place of having been connected with God alone, with no external influence of any sort. What would that be like? And you know, it ties in pretty much with what I kind of want to share tonight with you guys. Tonight's message, which I have the privilege to share with you guys, is restored to the very beginning. We're restored to the very beginning. In Daughters in 2019, we've been going over the book of Song of Songs. And oh my gosh, what a journey it's been to walk with Shulamite woman. It's been a journey, because at the beginning we started off and we thought, boy, she is sweet. She wants Jesus. She wants more of this love, and you'll see why she causes a bit of frustration every now and then. But Song of Songs, it says, first chapter, first verse, it says, the most amazing song of all. And it is about this girl, the Shulamite woman, and her bridegroom. But before I tell you about her, I have to tell you a little bit about myself. I have to tell you a little bit about me, right? So I wrote notes, and I'm gonna stick to them, because when I tell the story about me, sometimes there's no limit. Sometimes we don't have, I am not even kidding. I once told the story, somebody asked me, and people were leaving. This was the point of the party in which people were leaving. Like, we were cleaning dishes. I stayed behind to clean dishes, and somebody was like, hey, how did you guys get engaged? And I was like, it all started in 1983 when I was born. I have a way to just make them long, these stories of my life that I know so well. All the details are important. So I wrote notes, and I'm gonna stick to my notes because we don't have all the time. But I'm Colombian by birth. That's that accent you hear. I'm 35 years old. I was 16 when I left home. I was born to a wonderful mother. And actually, I've stood at this stage before, telling, Mother's Day message. And I've talked about her before, but today I actually have the privilege to have her here with us. It's pretty special. Oh, don't cry. But yeah, seriously, it's very special. It's very special. She's come at a season that I've needed so much support, and she's just coming in clutch. I don't know how that gets translated, but did you guys also know that we're translating? That there's people in this place who are listening to us speak in English, and then they're hearing it in Spanish? Because magic. It's amazing. I feel really pumped about that. I feel very pumped about that. But anyway, I was telling you in my quick story that I have to stick to, that I was born to this wonderful mother of mine, and she taught me something wonderful. She was not perfect. She was not perfect. And in her imperfection, she managed to love me perfectly. Me. And for that, I'm forever thankful. Muchas gracias por amarme de la manera en que tú me amas. Porque ha sido perfecto para mí. She pointed me to Jesus by taking me to church, and by sharing with me what she knew about God, which in reality, it was like the fear of the Lord. Pretty much that was it. And then about his justice, right? She herself, and it's funny because this is like a quick snip of my story, but here I am telling you a little bit of her story, which is what we do. I mean, our stories are often connected to someone else's story, another woman, and that's good. It's good. We're a combination of the fingerprint of God in all of our stories, and he connects us all. And so anyway, she was one of 11, and when she met my dad, a handsome devil he was, she got pregnant, and then she got married, and then she truly met what handsome devil my dad was afterwards. That's not a good order, girls, especially you younger ones. That's not the right order of doing things, because, then heartache, like, we experience, It was a hard life for her, and it was a hard life for me, too, from a young age. My dad was a drug dealer. He spent 6 years in prison, and then when he finally came home, we lost him. I was around the age of 8 years old. He was murdered. And it's funny because you don't meet a lot of people from Colombia who have this story. I know you're like, like in the Netflix, series. Most Colombians would be like, no, that's a bunch of lies. Sorry. In my case, there's a little bit of all that crazy in the story that this life has seen. But I have to tell you that all of this points to the fact that at a young age, I started making deals with God. I knew God, and I knew that he was good and that he was just, that he was fair. I thought he will do what he says, right? At least. Not having a father of my own, I just thought he'll fill in that spot. He'll be fair to that. And being naive and young, I thought, I bet we can trade. I bet I can con God into trading me some favor for, I don't know exactly what he would want from me, but I'll give it all. I mean, sincerely, I remember she was sick and I just couldn't even. I was maybe 8, around that young age. And I was already thinking to myself, if some things go south and she doesn't make it through this surgery that she had, I was petrified. So I went to Jesus and I said, all right, whatever I have that you'd be interested in, I give to you if you could please see my mom through this, whatever you want. And I recall that the most salvation prayer, no, I participated in all like altar calls and all of that, every one of them, because I just needed the reassurance that I was covered. I needed all of that in my trading. I just believed at that point that he was going to be fair towards me because of our little trade, right? And every now and then I did feel like, okay, just remember, all the other girls have a dad and I don't. So just remember that when we get started on the day and the year and all of that. And so, well, I want to point out chapter 1 of Song of Songs now, because there's a girl here. And I love her, but she makes me a little uncomfortable. So I think I am her, and I'm here to tell you that I think maybe you are too. This is how she approaches God, right? I'm just gonna paraphrase a little bit because it's so rich and it's so good. And I really encourage you to read this book, Song of Songs, that most of us growing up Christian, I was one of them. I was like, we can't go into that book. They say that it's for like married people. It talks about some crazy stuff between two people and like, blossoming and breasts and crazy stuff, and and that's like not okay for a Christian young mind. But as it turns out, this intimacy is this love that is there for you and for me. So we really absolutely, most definitely need to be the Christian girls that get into that book and read all of it. And so it's a journey. It's a journey that we're starting tonight, okay? It's a journey that we're starting tonight. So she says to him, draw me into your heart. Draw me into your heart. I think she knows God maybe the same way that I knew God. Like, I bet he's good and I bet he's fair. I bet those two things he has going for him. And I bet I can convince him somehow to make a trade with me. And so then she says, where do you feed your flock? Where do you lead the ones you love to give them rest in the heat of the day? In modern day technology, I bet she'd be like, would you just send me a pin, a Google address, a link, and I will get myself there. You just tell me where is it, and I will get myself there. I feel like I was a lot that way too. It's funny because then he speaks one thing. He says, you are so lovely. She said, I am so unworthy, so in need. So she's coming to him saying, I have this need, but I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to tell me where I go to get my need taken care of. And I think she annoyed me because I remember those thoughts too. Like, I have a need and it is big to me. I cannot separate myself from my need, right? Would you just send me directions and I will get myself there. I will get myself and position myself to a place where I can not have this need anymore. Because yes, I'm unworthy and I'm so in need. And he says, you are so lovely. That's what he says. Yet you are so lovely. And it's like, what? You want to talk about my value? Because I didn't come to you to talk about my value. I am here to state that I have a need can you just help me with my need? But then whenever he calls her out on this and speaks of her value, like, you are so lovely, those are sweet words. It just stirs up something inside of her, and she says, well, if we're gonna talk about feelings, I guess I'll just let you have it, okay? I feel as dark and dry as the desert tents of the wandering nomads. You know, there's a word there used, it's kedar. My Hebrew is really good, guys. Kedar, it's a Hebrew word that means dark place. And it's interesting because Psalm 120 says, and this is David speaking, he's saying how he's suffering in far off Meshech. And then it says, it pains me to live in distant Kedar, in this dark place. I'm tired of living among people who hate peace. I search for peace, but when I speak of peace, they want war. Kedar is also the name of one of the sons of Ishmael, who represents our old nature. Good old Adam and Eve, without redemption, without Jesus yet. So this groom continues to say, you are so lovely, with an emphasis, big one on the so. You are so lovely, like fine linen tapestry hanging in the holy place. I'm gonna tell you a few things that I really think tonight, that I really think God wants you to know. And I'm gonna be specific about them because I don't want you to forget. When God begins to restore you to your beginning, he makes it clear that you are meant for sacred things. Let's just think about that a minute, okay? When he begins to restore you to your first origin, to that place where he knit you in your mother's womb, and there were no distractions, and you had no reason to not trust him because he was making you and choosing you and loving you, and you were changing. You were growing, you were maturing, but you had no reason to doubt anything he was doing right there, which, let me remind you of something. We've all experienced that. You've experienced that kind of love. So I'm just believing that the Spirit of God is jolting your memories, and mine too, of what it felt like to be in there and have nothing but his presence. Isn't that neat? No, don't answer that, because it's not just neat. It's life-changing, okay? So, and he makes it clear that you are meant for holy things, for sacred things. Then verse 7 of chapter 1 says, I wish to be wrapped all around you. This is her speaking, right? She says, I wish to be wrapped all around you with no veil between us. Guys, Song of Songs is in the Old Testament. This wasn't possible yet. But it is a good picture of what Jesus came to do for us. Matthew 27 says this. At that moment, let me read from the beginning. Then Jesus shouted out again, and he released his spirit. At that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. From top to bottom. So that there would be no questions asked that perhaps a human came and tore it from the bottom up. This was not us trying to find directions to a place and getting our needs solved. This was the God of heaven, the Creator, our Father. He was making a way for us, finally, once and for all. He was saying, you know what? No more. What's behind here is a holy place, and what's over there is not good enough. But I sent Jesus. And because Jesus released his spirit, the veil that was between us is torn now. So good. So good. What she really wants is what we all want. Shulamite girl, Vivi Rivers, fill in your name in there. What she really wants is what we all want. The biggest desire and cry of our hearts is to truly live and embody who Jesus is. to be image bearers. He gave himself fully so we could live from him, from within. And then that reminds me of John 1:1, where it says that, you know that verse where it says that he's the Word of God. Jesus was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Passion Translation says, the living expression was with God. The living expression, because it wasn't just like a spoken word. It was like a continual, that's Jesus' continual expression of love. Living expression was with God and fully God. Do you know what else he wants to restore? He wants to restore you so his creative inspiration flows right through you once more. Once more, because this was you at some point. Again, I want to remind you, daughter, that this was you once before. At some point, you flowed with his creative inspiration right through you. And your limbs grew. And your brain was formed. And your eyes were open. Chapter 2 says, I am truly his rose. This is her talking now. She says, I'm truly his rose, overshadowed by his love, the theme of his song. We start blossoming in the shadow of his grace. She talks on how he takes care of her. This part is good. In verse 6, this part is good. In verse 6, she says, his left hand cradles my head, while his right hand holds me close. I am at rest in his love. Well, guys, it so turns out that Proverbs 3:16 has something interesting about the right and the left hand, and I want you to pay attention to this. She offers you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left. But this is a she. Who could this be? The verse before says, wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. She offers you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left. She will guide you down delightful paths. All her ways are satisfying. Wisdom is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her tightly. He wants to restore you to a place where your name is wisdom. A name he calls himself. He wants to restore you to a long and healthy life where you lack nothing, whether that's provision or respect, in the closeness of his love. Verse 8 says a bit about how he approaches her, which it's awesome. He says, I know it's him, leaping with joy over the mountains, skipping in love over the hills that separate us to come to me. Graceful, swift, coming closer, even to the places where I hide. I don't even want to do like a show of hands because it's not necessary. I'm just going to tell you, we all have things we hide. We all have things we hide. And if that sounds like an accusation, let me tell you something, it's not. We all have things we hide, but we all have this love that leaps with joy to come and find us where we hide. That is graceful and swift and constantly coming closer. He is coming closer. He is coming closer. And my prayer for you tonight and this weekend is that he comes so close there is nothing else to hide. That there is nothing else to hide. Isn't that great? Yes, I think it's great. I think it's great. Verse 9. Sorry, my eyes, I need to get them checked. Verse 9 says, listen to this. It says, my lover is like a swift gazelle or a young stag, right? We already read that part. Look, there he is behind the wall, looking through the window, peering into the room. Guys, why is there a wall? He didn't put a wall up. Why am I standing behind a wall? I asked my Shulamite girl inside me, why is there a wall? It's my wall. It's my wall. Enclosing and restricting my wall. The separation between us. What makes us hide? Let's just really think this through. What makes us hide? Because the last time that, well, not the last time, but a time that I can think of where people are hiding, it's Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, who used to walk in the cool of the evening with the Father, in complete connection with Him, completely, just one. But they made a mistake and they disobeyed. A big mistake. And they didn't trust the Father's goodness. They didn't trust the Father's goodness. And so they hid when they realized that they were naked. Are we hiding behind a wall because we think that just the way we are is not pleasing to the Father? Our knowledge of good and evil generates a self-awareness and a fear that God never intended for us to bear. It's funny because we live in a day and age, in a culture that is like self-care and self-awareness and, treat yourself and check yourself and all of the self, which is, yay. But that's not the answer that our hearts are looking for. That's not the answer. That's not gonna get us peace. That's not gonna get us real acceptance. It's not. It just isn't. It isn't. Jesus came to cover us. Jesus came so that we could get out from behind the wall. So that we, in fact, there's a song that is like, there's no wall you wouldn't kick down coming after me. I love that song. I'm like a mess when that song plays. I don't know if we're gonna do that song, but I'm just, would not be able to wear these eyelashes because it would just be a mess. I'd be a mess. And I would do it too, like, just be a mess. Because why hide behind the lashes? Verse 14 of, I think we're still in chapter 2. I forgot, lost track. But this is what he says, and this part is so good. Again, all of it is really good. Actually, I should stop trying to qualify it. It's all really good. For you are my dove. This is him speaking, right? He says, hidden in the split open rock. Remember how Jesus is the cornerstone. And then this says, hidden in the split open rock. Hidden. So it's like hiding on our own and behind our walls is not good. But there is a place of protection where he says, my provision is the hiding that you need. It's the hiding that you need. It says, it was I who took you and hid you up high in the secret stairway of the sky. Listen to this. In Exodus 33, Moses asked God to see his glorious presence. But this is what he said. This is what God said to Moses in Exodus 33, verse 22. As my glorious presence passes by, I will hide you in the crevice of the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand and let you see me from behind, but my face will not be seen. It was too much for Moses because Moses hadn't made a deal. Actually, the only deal that really counts. Not like my little, not my naive deals. The only deal that counts. The one when we take on Jesus. Moses couldn't do that. But we can. We can. Because again, veil, tore, right? We get to make that deal. We get to make that deal. He wants to restore you, to protect you, to hide you in himself and reveal himself fully to you with no veil between you. Isn't that comforting that there is nothing that he wouldn't keep from you? That if protection is what your heart longs for and needs, He says, don't hide on your own behind your walls. That part at the beginning where she's like, I feel like a dark and dry desert tent. I just can't help but think, what kind of shelter is that? What kind of shelter is that? What kind of fortress is that? How good is a tent really at keeping like sand and sandstorms and the elements out? Not that good. But Jesus provides us with this holy place, like woven things that what he says, fine linen. Woven. I bet that's it. Just not if I say it right. Woven into something beautiful to display, beautiful to bring him adoration and praise in a holy place. It's so good. And last but not least, he's making your destiny and purpose sweeter. Verse 11, honestly, at this part of chapter 2, in that place is just so rich that I want to give you homework for tonight. Would you go home and read chapter 2 in the Passion Translation of the Bible, because it is so good. Verse 11 says, the rains have soaked the earth like an outpouring of his presence, right? The rains have soaked the earth, and a season of singing and pruning has started. Girls, you are prepared and ready now. And it says, early signs of new life in your life. It just makes me think, there's something else that God wants to restore you, that God wants to restore us tonight and give us. He wants to restore you today so that your present hour looks more like your eternity as you're unified with him forever as one. Do you long for heaven? Because here's the thing. When I was young, I remember listening to people who were like, oh, heaven, and me being like, oh yeah, cool. I mean, like, I was just a little unsure. Like, praising Jesus all day long, like, cool. Will there be snacks? I don't know. That thought didn't really appeal to me when I was a little kid. Sorry. But now that I've lived more seasons of my life, I've come to realize that my soul longs for rest. You know, it happened to me the first time when I turned 30. When I turned 30, several things happened. This body became like, no dairy. And that was sad. That was a sad story because I love dairy. But that happened when I turned 30. Another thing that happened is that I realized, oh, I arrived. I think this is good. Like, I feel like every year before that it was like, oh, who am I? Who am I going to become? Who am I going to be? Maybe this way, maybe this way. And then you reach 30. I reached 30, and I thought, oh, my God, yes. Unbutton those pants, like, get comfortable. Because, man, this is as good as it gets, but this is good. That's what I reached when I reached 30. So, younger than 30, you have much to look forward to. And then gals who are like beyond 30, you tell me, because I feel like it's going to get better and better and better. So maybe we're just looking at eternity through the right lenses finally, when we're like, maybe I'll arrive to that place of like, this is good. I am one with the Father and he is one with me, and there's no veil between us, and there's no stupid walls, and there's nothing else hindering me from just being loved and being who he says that I am, and I'm no longer seeking for something that cannot be found. I am found in his love, and this is good enough, right? I feel like he wants to restore your today with what he's saying. You know, the rains have soaked the earth, right? This is a new season for you. It's a new season for you. For singing and pruning, you are prepared and ready now there's early signs of spring. Yeah, it gives hope. It gives hope. In your life, He brings early signs of what eternity is gonna be like. We don't have to sit here and wait for heaven. We don't have to sit here and be like, someday when I get there. No, Jesus came to us. He left heaven so that we could find ourselves complete in Him while we're here, while we are here. This restoration business is so good. It's so good. I just think we should look at it from every angle possible. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to look at this restoration business. And we're going to look up at the screens. And then something else is going to happen. And you're going to tell me tomorrow what you think of restoration. Right? Let's look up on the screens.